Crossbows, crossbows, crossbows. And with all those crossbows comes lots of questions. So we're going to attack the top 10 most asked crossbow questions. And stick around to the end because I've got a bonus question that is the absolute most asked question I've gotten about crossbows over the last 10 years. And it's not even close. All that coming up next on Trinity Wild. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. What I want to do with this video is to answer some general questions that I get on a daily basis. So what I did is I wrote down several, but I also had ChatGPT go in and search the internet, look at Archery Talk and several of the crossbow forums, and find out the top 10 questions that people ask the most regularly there. So hopefully it'll help some of you. If you have other questions that I missed here, go ahead and drop those in the comments when we get done. All right, question number 1. I want to start out with legal questions. This one has several different variations, but it basically comes down to, are crossbows legal in my state? Can I use my crossbow during archery season, all that kind of thing? As a general rule, you can use crossbows during archery season. There's a lot of public hunting lands that are bow only, and here, bow only means crossbow as well. But there are several states, including Alaska, that does not allow you to use crossbow in a bow only area. Also, just with a quick look, I found out that Arizona only allows crossbows with a disability. California allows crossbows during gun season, but not archery season. And Oregon doesn't allow crossbows at all. But what it comes down to is this. Every state is different. Every season is different. Now, a lot of times when you look online or you read the little book, it's very difficult to decipher because they're talking in legalese. So don't hesitate to call. Don't hesitate to find a game warden and talk to them. Ask them those questions and make sure you get clarification, because once you get in the field, it's just like with a police officer. Some is going to give you a warning, other one's going to give you a ticket. Same thing with a game warden. Some are going to be really nice and go, whatever, let me let you out with a warning. Other ones, you may end up in some deep trouble. So just make sure you check really closely with your local game regulations. Question number 2. I guess this would kind of fall into an ethical question. How far can I actually shoot? Well, really that kind of depends on you. If you feel comfortable shooting 25 yards, then don't shoot any further past that. If you don't feel comfortable shooting past 50, don't shoot past that. What your crossbow will do may be different than what you feel comfortable doing. Now, companies like Raven will claim their crossbow will shoot a 3-inch group at 100 yards. I've done it. I know that'll happen. Am I going to take a shot at a whitetail at 100 yards? Absolutely not. And why is that? Because a lot of things can happen within that 100 yards. Whether or not the crossbow is accurate 100 yards doesn't dictate what that ethical shot is. The situation will dictate what's ethical. The longest shot I've ever made with my bow was 72 yards, and that was on a mule deer. No way would I shoot at a whitetail at 72 yards. It depends on the target, it depends on your equipment, and ultimately it'll depend on you and where you feel comfortable taking that shot. As a general rule, I feel pretty comfortable with telling most people a decent crossbow, sighted in correctly, being shot by somebody who feels comfortable and confident, 50 yards and in, you should be safe. Outside of that, a lot of factors play into it. So ultimately, there's not one pat answer. It will depend on you. Question number 3, we're going to talk about maintenance at this point. What type of maintenance do I need to do? How often do I change the strings? How often do I wax my strings or lube my rail? These are all very important questions. The maintenance and care of your crossbow is going to make that crossbow last a lot longer, especially the strings. So let's talk about those first. Waxing your strings every few outings is the way to do that. Wax only the string. Don't wax the serving, especially the center serve that rides along the rail. We want to keep wax away from your rail because that's going to do exactly the opposite of what we want the rail lube to do, which is reduce friction. String wax will increase friction on your rail, so keep it away from there. And when you put your wax on the string, so just pinch that string and rub it back and forth till your fingers heat up. That will basically cause the wax to melt into the string, which is going to help it do its job, which is to keep out dirt and grit and grime. Occasionally you want to clean that string. Just take some butcher's twine, wrap around it, slide it down, and that's going to peel off some of the dirt. Re-wax it. Anytime you're out in the field and happen to get rained on, dry your crossbow off well, get some compressed air, blow all the water out of the cams, out of your scope, all that stuff, and then be sure to re-wax your string and re-lube your rail. The lube that goes on the rail, every 10 to 20 shots is probably plenty. We recommend rail snot and string snot. Certainly you can use any brand you'd like. When you put the lube on the rail, put a little dot in the back right in front of the trigger, a little dot all the way in front where the string is going to stop, and then rub it along and just work it into the rail. Now, if you've got a crossbow that doesn't have a rail, like a Raven, you've got your rest there at the front. Check that and make sure there's nothing damaged in any way, nothing's missing, nothing's flopping around that's going to cause an errant shot. Now back to the strings. Keep an eye on your strings. When they start to look fuzzy, when you begin to see hairs coming off, that means it's beginning to dry out. Make sure you wax your string then. If you're waxing your string, going out and shooting, and those fuzzes are coming back, it may be time to get a new string. A lot of companies, again, like Raven, are going to tell you 400 shots, get a new string. That's a pretty good rule of thumb, but that's not to say that after 200 shots you won't need a new string. Take a look at it. There's certain things you can look at. Different companies put timing marks on their cams, so you'll be able to see if your string has stretched a little far. Anytime you're shooting and you think you're dead on, you're dead on, you're dead on, all of a sudden your shots start flying crazy, probably time for a new string. You've got some stretch. Check for damage on your end loops on your cables and your strings. Wherever it makes a turn on the cam, look at that. When you begin to get serving separation and you can see the string, time to start thinking about some new strings. If you're getting something out of our content, go ahead and hit that like button for us. That's really going to help out our channel. Or maybe you have a friend who has a crossbow and we've answered one of the questions that they've asked you. Share this with them and maybe it'll help them out. Number 4, and this was asked in several different ways, so I want to address it each way. Can I leave my crossbow cocked all day? Can I leave my crossbow cocked overnight? How long can I leave my crossbow cocked? Well, not this long. So what happened here? The parents of the person that owned the crossbow brought this in, so they really didn't have any idea. But after asking them a few questions, it sounds like what happened was the person cocked it and thought there was a way to decock it without shooting it, but just never shot it. The brand of this crossbow is a Killer Instinct, so when something happens this catastrophic, they just send me a whole brand new front end. I've got a new riser, limbs, cams, strings, everything. So it makes the fix real easy. However, I've got your crossbow now for 2 or 3 weeks while I wait on the part to get here. So to answer the question, if I'm getting in my tree stand in the morning and I'm hunting all day long, you're probably going to be fine leaving your crossbow cocked all day long. Now, should you leave it cocked overnight for the next day's hunt? Absolutely not. Or chances are you're going to wake up to this. Now you may look at me and say, hey, I left my crossbow cocked for days and it was fine. Yes, I've seen that too. I had a guy bring in an old Barnett. I mean, it's not even a high-end crossbow. So he brings this crossbow in and it's cocked and he said, we couldn't get it to shoot. And I said, okay, well, it was caught on the anti-dry fire. I knew what had happened and I knew how to fix it. And then I asked him, how long has this crossbow been cocked? He had no idea. I said, like a couple of days. He goes, oh no, way longer. Now this thing had been in the fully cocked position for goodness knows how long, and it was fine. This one may have been cocked just overnight and blown to pieces. You just don't know. So you may say, yes, I've left mine cocked for days and days and days and it was fine. Eventually, it's not going to be fine. Don't leave your crossbow cocked overnight. Make sure when your hunt is over that the crossbow is decocked. All right, question number 5. Do you cock your crossbow before you go into the woods? I hate to give you a wishy-washy answer here. It depends on the situation. If I get off my four-wheeler and I'm walking down a road 200 yards to my stand in the afternoon, I've got my crossbow cocked. If it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm walking through the woods to my crossbow, absolutely not. Because why do I need it cocked? It's dark. I'm not going to be able to take a shot in the dark. All I'm doing is risking an accidental dry fire. And one of the reasons I don't like to cock it if I'm walking through the woods. So let me ask you this question. How many times you've been walking through the woods, scouting, whatever, and you get your pants hung up in some barbed wire? If you've got that crossbow cocked, there's already so much tension on those cables. If you've got it cocked and you accidentally hit some barbed wire and get that thing raked across there, it can actually clip that string and blow it to pieces. Hunt's over. Now you can say that would never happen. I assure you, there's a lot of things that I never thought could happen that people walk up to my shop and have their crossbow and hand it to me and go, you're not going to believe this. And that's exactly what happened. So that's why I'm telling you, if you've got a clear shot to your stand and it's in the daytime and I'm going for an afternoon hunt, I probably will cock my crossbow just in case, like if I'm going to sit on a field, maybe there's deer already in the field. But coming out after it's dark or going in the morning when it's dark, there's no need to have your crossbow cocked because you're not going to be able to make a shot in the dark anyway. The other question that kind of goes along with that is, do you wait till you get into your stand before you cock your crossbow? Now again, I know a lot of you cock it before you go up because you get in that stand, it makes it really, really difficult, especially if you don't have a crank and you've got like an old barnet and you've got to have pull ropes and cock that thing. I understand. But again, once you get that thing cocked and you start pulling it up that tree and it accidentally whacks one of those tree steps, your hunt could be over. So I'm just saying, do what you got to do. Be careful. If you want to cock it before you climb your tree, look, I'm not the crossbow police. You do what you want. But just be very, very careful and understand that that can be an issue. All right, question number 6. What bolts do I need and how do I know? Now, some of these bolts are going to be proprietary. Some of them are just kind of general use. Let me go through those real quick. Basic, everyday, half moon knock. This is an Easton 20-inch bolt. This is just general purpose half moon knock. You're going to be okay with these on most crossbows, most Barnett crossbows, most all Killer Instinct crossbows. Most of your older some of your older 10 points that used to shoot the Omni knock, don't shoot those. Get at least a half moon knock. That's just a general purpose. Now 10 point has kind of upgraded that knock to what's called an alpha knock. So you can see this one's a little bit deeper. If you look at a side-by-side comparison, the alpha knock is a little bit deeper, which I like a lot better. The old Parker crossbows that had to have a capture knock, this alpha knock seems to work really well because Parker went out of business. So if you happen to own a Parker and need some bolts, you don't have to have the Parker knocks. The alpha knock seems to work really well. And then you've still got the Excalibur, which is a flat knock, which is hard to understand, but that's what they do. Now some of them, as you see on the Excalibur here, that little ridge, that's going to disengage the anti-dry fire and have you be able to shoot it. If I were to accidentally put this into an Excalibur crossbow, I'm going to be fine. You accidentally put that Excalibur bolt in a different crossbow, you're not going to be fine. The string is going to jump over the bolt and basically you just dry fired it. Check with your manufacturer what type of knock and how long that the bolt should be. And I want to address this too. One of the guys that watches my videos a lot, he's always chastised me about calling this an arrow. It is an arrow because technically it has fletching on it. That makes it an arrow. Back when they first started and they didn't have those, they were called bolts, even quills. But as they added the fletching, that's an arrow. If you look at different companies call them arrows, different companies call them bolts. We call them bolts here, so we don't get them mixed up with the arrow. So technically, yes, that's an arrow. I'm going to continue calling it a bolt. Sorry if that offends you. Let's move on. Question number 7. How do I decock it? That's easy. Shoot it. Many of the new crossbows, that's the big selling point, is to be able to cock and decock the crossbow. But as most of you know, some of the brands, Raven, as you're decocking that crossbow, things can go really bad. Now I've got several videos on my channel that you can go and take a look at to show you all the safety things and how to do that safely. Go check those out if you have any questions on that. Most of the new 10 points and this Excalibur, you can decock it. There is a brake system. So after you cock the crossbow, there's going to be a few things you got to do to make sure you don't have an issue when you cock it next time. That's the only downside to those braking systems. Now all your older crossbows that you've got a pull rope on, you're just going to have to shoot it. Now 10 point does actually have some pull ropes. The Raider 400 decock that you can actually decock the crossbow with a pull rope. I want you to think about this though. If you're in a tree stand and you're decocking the crossbow, I just got done doing a video with a vertical crossbow, what I cocked and decocked it on a tiny little platform. So it can be done. It's not that big a deal. But as you decock it, think about the cams. When you draw your bow, as you let it down, what happens? It pulls in real quickly. That crossbow is going to do that even worse. It literally flip you out of a tree if you're not careful. So as you decock your crossbow, and again, should I decock? And then the question comes up again, should I decock it before or after? I don't decock mine till it gets to the ground. You're welcome to do that. In fact, safety-wise, you're in a tree stand, it's probably best to lower your crossbow down, decock it when you get to the ground. Question number 8, which should I use, fixed blade or mechanical broadheads? Now, this can be a very controversial topic, but let's tackle it. A long time ago, I said, I'm not using a mechanical broadhead anymore because it's just one more thing that can go wrong. There's already enough that can go wrong. Nowadays, these mechanical broadheads, I hear very little issues with people having them fail, open early, not open when they're supposed to. It still happens occasionally, but not like it used to. With these crossbows, the speeds they're going, the mechanical broadhead is going to be a little bit better choice, I think. Now, here's why. With a fixed blade broadhead like this Muzzy Trocar here, anytime you're shooting over 350 feet per second, it's very difficult to get a fixed blade broadhead to fly true. Now you may say, hey, I've been shooting Ramcats for years out of my 400 foot per second crossbow and it flies great. Sure, the issue is that Ramcat's not going to fly great out of every crossbow. A pack of crossbow broadheads, 45, 50 bucks. These don't fly good. I try another pack. I try another pack. I try another pack. Oh, I finally found some that worked. You're $250 into some broadheads before you ever find a pack that works. Whereas with a mechanical, these should pretty much fly just like your field points. Now again, I know I shot these Megamates and they flew crazy. Okay, but that's one person out of 100. The other 99, these things shot fine. Now another caveat I'm going to add to the fixed blade issue, you've got to shoot that into a target. So now you've got a whole nother step you've got to take. Even if these fly true for you, you may have your field point hitting dead in the center and then that fixed blade broadhead hitting a little bit off. Well, if it's consistent, that's fine. You can just move your scope to match where it's hitting. But if you're getting field point here, broadhead everywhere, that broadhead's probably not going to work. So you're going to have to toss that and go to another one. And you can't shoot that into a bag target. You've got to have a block style target to be able to shoot that into. So again, a whole nother step, a whole nother target. If you're shooting into a bag target now, you got to, again, it's a whole nother step you got to do. Now for me, if I'm shooting mechanical broadhead, I'm going to sacrifice one just to be sure. But again, what's your experience? What have you found with fixed blade broadheads, with mechanical broadheads? Put those things in the comments. I have seen people almost go to blows over fixed versus mechanical standing in front of my counter. And as my granddaughter would say, it's not that deep. Just find one you're confident with, stick with that one. Another question along those lines is, what's the difference between a crossbow broadhead and a regular broadhead? Well, with the Megameats, these you can see really clearly. One has a blue collar, one has a red collar. You don't want to mix those two up. Why is that? With the crossbow collar, of course, you've got way more force coming out of something that's shooting 500 feet per second, as opposed to my bow, which is shooting, what, 310? So if I mix these up and I accidentally put the crossbow collar on my bow broadhead, I may not have enough kinetic energy at the point of impact to have that broadhead open up. Conversely, if I put the regular bow collar on my crossbow broadhead, it may open as soon as it comes out of the crossbow. Now we've got the whole problem with the fixed blade broadhead we had before, and it may plane and not fly true. Now years ago, the only difference between crossbow broadheads and regular broadheads was the crossbow broadhead said crossbow on it. Other than that, they were exactly the same. Not so anymore. Many of these crossbows are shooting 450, 500 and more, so there's got to be something to hold that mechanical broadhead a little bit tighter, but to still be able to open on impact. Now, what I do want to ask you guys about is the Beast broadhead. I couldn't get these in last year. I got plenty of them now, and they are compound and crossbow approved. Have any of you guys shot these? What's your experience with them? Let me know in the comments what you think of these if you've had an opportunity to shoot them. Question number 9. This is going to be a multifaceted one. How do I sight it in? Again, depends on the crossbow you got, depends on the scope you got. There's basically 4 different scopes. You've got your basic dot scope that comes on, example, a Wicked Ridge. That's just going to have a dot, dot, dot. You're going to sight in your top dot at 20 yards. Sit down, sight it in just like you would a rifle. Click your elevation, click your windage until you're dead on. Now, back up to 30 yards and see where the second dot is hitting. If it's hitting high, continue to back up until that's meeting. So when you're looking through that kind of a scope, you're not necessarily sighted in at 20, 30, 40, 50. You're sighted in at 20 and whatever that crossbow hits at on the second dot, because they use that scope on a crossbow that shoots 400, 420, 370. So you'll have to walk that back and find out. So your crossbow, those dots may be centered at 20, 37, 42 as you back up and sight that one in. Number 2, very popular on the speedier crossbows, is the speed dial scope. I dial the speed of the crossbow into the scope. Most of the time your crossbow will, when you buy it, it will say this is a Boss 405, this is a something something 470. So you'll know exactly how fast that thing's shooting. However, you're going to want to get that thing dialed in speed wise, so a chronograph is a good way to do that, or you're going to get it sighted in at 20 yards, back up to 50 and see what happens. 6 inches low, That crossbow ain't shooting 470 feet per second. Again, the easiest way is to have a chronograph. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of work to do with that speed dial scope. So the third style is one that's almost like a single pin sight that you would put on your bow. You're going to dial in the distance. So you'll range your target, dial the distance into the scope, and that's going to move it. Now, most of those scopes are higher end scopes and much more clear. Some of them have a little more magnification. Most of these crossbows that are $800 and less are just going to have a standard scope. You're not going to have any magnification on there. Because chances are you're shooting 50 yards and in. What do you need magnification for? But the sniper scope that comes on the Raven does have some magnification. But what again you'll do is dial in the speed of the crossbow. There are tapes, just like on a single pin bow sight, that you would find out the speed, put the correct tape on there, range your target, dial in your distance, and let it go. Number 4, a very popular scope right now, is the range finding scope. So we've got Burris and Garmin. Those are the two biggies. You're going to look through the scope. It's going to range the target for you. So one less step for you in the field to have to worry about ranging the target. You just put it on there, hit a button, it will range the target and drop the pin where it needs to go, whether that target is 42 yards or 57 yards. Now, I won't go into the whole sighting process here, but once you get those things dialed in, they are money. And question number 10. Question number 10, I'm going to have to rephrase a little bit. It came back as, what's the difference between crossbow and compound bow? Let's go through a couple of things. We all know shooting a compound bow takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication. With a crossbow, you can be ready to go to the woods much quicker with way less practice. I don't have a lot of time. I just want to reduce my doe population, and then I'm getting my gun out and hunting for big bucks from November on. Okay, get a crossbow. Do you need to spend $3,000 on a brand new 10-point? Absolutely not. $500, $600, $800, even $1,000. You're going to get a crossbow that's going to put a lot of meat in your freezer, and then put that away, get your gun out, and finish the season. So I'm assuming that's what the question was, is which one should I pick? Not so much the way the question was worded as what's the difference. I mean, it's pretty easy to see the difference. Crossbows tend to shoot faster. I can shoot upwards of 500 feet per second with a crossbow. The average bow is going to be shooting 280, 290. You know, I'm getting about 310, 315 out of mine. A crossbow is much louder than a bow. But with crossbows shooting 450 and up, by the time they hear that crack, there's a hole in them and it's over with. So we're finally to the bonus question. And over the last 10 years or so, I've gotten this crossbow question more than any other. Hands down, not even close. So the bonus question, what kind of crossbow does Daryl shoot on The Walking Dead? Always was a huge Walking Dead fan, and obviously a Daryl fan because redneck. Now early on, one of the crossbows he shot was a Horton HD one. I don't know if it's a 125 or a 150, but it's a really old Horton now. And somewhere along the lines, and they're rummaging around and getting new supplies, the crossbow he ends up shooting is a Striker Strike Zone 380. Now this is hilarious. As I'm preparing to do this video, about 2 days ago, a guy walks in, needs his crossbow restrung. You ain't gonna believe it. A Striker Strike Zone 380. So there it is. That's the crossbow he shot, certainly with not this kind of scope. And this is actually the upgraded version. He was shooting a little bit of an earlier version of it. But that's it. That's the crossbow he shot in The Walking Dead. Still to this day, I get that question. Hey, thank y'all for hanging out with us today. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when our new ones are coming out. Got a lot of new content we're putting together for you. And again, if you have a question that I did not answer here, go ahead and drop it in the comments. We'll get to it. Might even be something we can do another video on. Or if you just have an opinion you want to drop on one of the questions I did answer, feel free to do that. We like having those kind of discussions here. So thanks again for joining us today. We'll see you in the next one. Y'all take care and God bless.